It is 8:30, and I call to order the Legislative and Human Resources Committee of the Board of Commissioners for October 22, 2019. Good morning. We will start with public comment. If anyone wishes to address the committee, you may do so. Identify yourself by name. You have up to 3 minutes, and I do not see anyone, so we'll move on to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes for September 24, 2019. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Not. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It is approved. Next item on the agenda is a report from our Public Affairs Associate Representative, Ms. Becky Beckler, who I see behind. There we are. Welcome, Becky. Look forward to your first post-budget report.
We continue to anxiously await some further conversation on the budget. As you know, on October 1st, Governor Whitmer line item vetoed over $945 million from the Republican budget that was presented to her. In addition, what the governor did was also use the little-used State Administrative Board to move $625 million within state departments, rearranging basically what the legislature had appropriated. This has clearly started a fire within the Republican caucuses, both the Senate and the House. And before the legislators will consider any type of end-of-the-year supplemental, which is traditional, they want some agreement from Governor Whitmer that she will not use or limit how she used the state ad board going forward. That has been the point of consternation over the conversations the last few weeks. As a matter of fact, they will refuse to even talk about a supplemental until they can reach an agreement on future use of the state board administration. We understand as of Thursday those conversations were going very well, even though in the press you're probably seeing the opposite public comments. Unfortunately, they are hopefully getting to an agreement. There are some timeframes I think that we're watching closely. The legislature is set to take a 2-week break after the first week of November. We're hoping that there could be some settlement before they take that break. Otherwise, they only come back for what could be 1 or 2 weeks before the end of the year. And that certainly will add some more stress upon especially county governments, because many of those cuts will impact when it comes to secondary road patrol, jail reimbursement. I know we are watching very closely the West Michigan Partnership for Children's cuts. And so as this keeps getting pushed further and further to the end of the year, it becomes more and more problematic. So we're hopeful that they can come up with some agreement very soon. But we continue not to have that, and not even having conversations on the supplemental yet. But we will continue to have additional conversations and hope for the best that we'll have good news this week. Governor Whitmer did announce as part of the whole budget conversation that they are going to end what was to be a pilot program. We refer to it as Section 298, which was a proposal to test the ability to jointly work with mental health and behavioral health when it comes to Medicaid payments. We were set to have 3 pilots. They've been delayed for a couple years. And matter of fact, Director Gordon had announced he was delaying it until September of 2020. And the Governor Whitmer has decided, she not only lied on and vetoed, but she has announced that they are not going to move forward with this pilot. They want to start over, do something new. Problematic to that was the fact that the Republicans in the House and the Senate had added boilerplate wanting full integration of the state by 2022. Well, that was difficult to accomplish if you can't even come up with an agreement for pilot programs. How are you going to fully integrate for the state? So she vetoed the entire program and announced that we're going to basically start over, want to do something in this arena, but the fact that those pilot programs just weren't going to be able to come together in a timely manner. So we're starting over on that matter. While we're not having an agreement when it comes to the 2020 budget, there are some other issues that the legislators and the governor's office have been able to reach consensus. All of those issues are around the policy arena of criminal justice reform. One issue that we've been watching very closely is the raise the age. We've been watching that all year long. That actually is now going to be presented to the governor. When she signs it, which we anticipate she will, there will only be 3 states in the country now remaining with that policy: Georgia, Texas, and Wisconsin. So we are not last, and that was one of the policy objectives of the legislature, is not to be last to make this change. Other issues that are dealing in this arena is expungement. There's legislation that seeks to remove convictions after 10 years, certain convictions after 10 years from a personal record. That has received over 3 hearings in the House Judiciary Committee This also allows the ability, you can petition if you have up to 3 felonies, as long as they don't deal with assault. Representative Grant Filler, who chairs the committee, wants a couple more weeks to deal with what convictions they will be dealing with, what would be exemptions, and work with that. But he does plan to move that out as committee before the end of the year. Another issue we anticipate to come up probably in January, February, will be dealing with bail bond reform. There's a task force going on, a state task force, and they are set to release their recommendations in mid-January. He wants to wait and see if those recommendations will improve, but then it does plan to move forward with that issue next year, probably in that first quarter. So those are the issues that the legislature is working on. There's also another issue that's highly contentious that is actually moving through now very quickly that was asked about yesterday. It's dealing with mental health counselors. And legislation finally did pass, and it's on its way to the governor. We do anticipate her signature. It was probably one of the most controversial issues, and they dealt with it last session, and finally we have some resolution this session. The urgency was around the Department of Licensing and Regulation was putting together some rules that they felt, the counselors felt, would limit severely their ability to practice as they do today and have practiced for over 30 years. So they needed this statutory change to give them relief. So we believe that the governor will sign that. So that's a great relief to our mental health counselors that have practices and could have resulted in some significant shortages. So those are the major issues that are happening over the next few weeks. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that anyone might have.
Good, thank you, Becky. Any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Tallon.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Becky. Can you help me understand why the legislature would feel it's appropriate to limit a statutory power of the governor to do those transfers? I mean, if that's something that the governor's allowed to do, why would they want to limit that? I mean, that'd be like the governor saying, you know, I want to limit your power to put together a budget. Why would she do that? I'm baffled by that. Can you help me?
Well, I will try. I'm
All
not
right.
sure I have all the answers. You're exactly right. This is a power that has been given to the governor. It is well within her authority. The last time it was used was Governor John Engler used it. The legislature promptly sued him, and the courts did upheld that he did have this authority. So it is something that has even upheld in court. The frustration for the Senate Majority and the Speaker of the House is that the governor was a pretty aggressive use of this state administrative board, moving around within departments over $600 million. And they view that as basically the governor appropriating money within a budget, which they believe is their role. And so it's a difference of roles. I think what they're trying to do is limit how much can be appropriated within departments without legislative oversight. How they're going to resolve that, I think, is still undecided, and that is the problem. This is clearly a power for the governor to use as they wish, and the legislature is asking them to limit that power. So that is the...
If I could just follow up. So your understanding is the interest of the legislature is to limit the amounts, not necessarily the ability to make those changes.
That's what I've been told
Okay.
by the leader's office,
Okay.
limit the amounts that can.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Stein. Becky, welcome. Thanks for being here. There's been talk in the past about tweaking the recycling bill to reimburse recycling centers that get a lot of these back and aren't part of that formula that's divided up with the stuff that's never returned. I know it's been there in the past and it hasn't, someone's got interest, but it hasn't been introduced. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's been a recycling task force for many, many years on this. So it's something that has been discussed, but like you say, yet they have not introduced it. No one has moved forward. So I have not heard anything recently. I know that there was a conversation at the Michigan Association of Counties about that, and we asked about it. There seemed to be some confusion on that, about whether someone misspoke and misunderstood what they were anticipating. But I haven't seen anything introduced or even conversations about that yet.
Okay.
It was something that we would probably have to initiate or encourage the
Okay.
legislators.
Back to Commissioner Tallon.
Thank you, Chair. Becky, do you have any sense that you could share with us for where the move for 4-year terms for county commissioners is at right now?
That was moved out of, I believe, the House Local Government Committee, and in the House, they have a two-step process for committee process. So now it is in the House Ways and Means Committee, chaired by Representative Grant Iden. I will be having dinner with him this evening. Whether he can get that out of committee before their Thanksgiving in district work period. And so I'll be able to report that to you probably by tomorrow morning.
No one else? I do have just a couple. As time goes on, the vetoes have some significant impacts on some of our operations. Is there any other strategy that we ought to be undertaking other than sit back and wait for the legislature and the governor to hopefully come to closure on some of this?
I wish I had the answer to that question. I believe that we have tried every avenue we possibly can. I know Wayman Britt and Lori came to Lansing and had some productive meetings with Senator Hertel, who actually introduced the supplemental. I know on the West Michigan Partnership, some of their individual partners have started a communication with the legislature and have been communicating to their legislators pretty aggressive pace. We have tried everything we can. I have personally met with the Senate Majority Leader, Speaker of the House, their staff, Senator McGregor, pleading with them to resolve this issue because of the implications. They want to resolve this, but there are some other bigger issues that they want to resolve first. And that's why I'm hopeful that this first week of November is a deadline for them as well to resolve this because of those pressures that will probably result in layoffs and closures of certain programs, which would be very disappointing if that happened.
Yeah, well, it's good to know we're doing everything we can. So, and then the other issue, yes, 298 was taken out, so we sit here and wonder what the new direction. My understanding is that Director Gordon is giving his policy direction statement probably as we speak up in Traverse City, so look forward to hearing what that's all about. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
All right, next item of business is the Clerk's Office Register of Deeds Performance Measurements Review. Clerk Lisa Lyons. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. I think you've all got your PowerPoints in front of you. I realize that we are pretty much through 2019, so I'm just going to ask you to rewind your mind back to 2018 for our performance measurements and kind of a quick year in review. We'll just, right?
Aim at the computer, maybe?
It's, all right. I'd like to briefly introduce you to our leadership team. Here we have, and if you'll stand when I introduce you, this is Rob McCumber. Rob is my Chief Deputy County Clerk and Register of Deeds. He has joined me from the legislature to this role and has been with the county since January 1st, 2017. Next, we have Amy Moylanen. She is our newbie on board. She's been with the county clerk's office since April of 2018. She is our chief deputy circuit court clerk. She is across the street in the courthouse. Next, we have Jerry Chaya. He is our chief deputy register, and he has been on board since 1998 in the county clerk register of deeds office. Jerry has been a constant, a mainstay in a whole sea of transition here in the clerk and register of deeds office since we took office. He's very well respected and renowned among our peers throughout the state. Go, Jerry. Next, we have Jared Uzarski. Many of you would see him as a familiar face just by nature of his role as our elections director. Jared has been on board since December of 2017. And finally, we have our senior administrative assistant, Kim Perry. And Kim has been with the county for 25 years this year. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that in the 25 years that she's been here, she has sat next to the clerk at every Board of Commissioners meeting to assist in taking minutes and recording the proceedings. And in that time, in that 25 years, she has missed maybe 2 Board of Commissioner meetings. So she gets the attendance record there. This is the leadership team of the County Clerk and Register of Deeds office, and in our office we have a staff of 43, not including myself, 43 staff members made up of 2 different bargaining units, the UAW for our register, elections, and vital records, and the TPOAM in our circuit court clerk's office. They are the heart and the soul behind the operations in our office, and I'm just so proud of the people who work in the clerk's office, who represent me every day to the people of Kent County. The clerk and the Register of Deeds office, we handle, we maintain, file, record, index over 500,000 land, court, vital human records in 2018. We administer and oversee elections in the county, working very closely hand in hand with the Bureau of Elections at the Secretary of State's office, as well as our local partners, municipal partners. We have 30 jurisdictions in Kent County, 21 school districts, and over 250 precincts last year for which we worked on elections for. The County Clerk and Register of Deeds office brings in $8.4 million in general fund revenue in 2018, and last year we made up $3.2 million in general fund expenditures. I don't need to go over the priorities for the county. I think you guys, as a board, you set those priorities. You know them inside and out. The mission of my office is to maintain the public record for the citizens and to disseminate public information as requested in a proficient and timely manner. The function of our office, we have, in Kent County, we are closely the 3rd, if not tied for the 2nd, mandated service provider in the county, and of the services that we do provide, very, very few, literally a handful, are discretionary services. What we do in the county is, by and large, strictly provide these mandated services for our citizens. They're not sexy, but they're critical, probably hence the term vital records. But we do make it our mission to do so in a way that's not, regulatory, red tape, bureaucratic, with a service-minded, service-hearted leaning. And we work to align with the priorities, providing a stable and predictable revenues in terms of our filing and recording fees. They're somewhat predictable, somewhat stable, but again, there's not a whole lot we can control. It's at the whim of the demand for these services. We are good stewards of taxpayer dollars. As you can see, we like to work within our means, and we like to be efficient and effective with the resources entrusted to us. Providing accurate records ensures the safety and the security of county citizens as well. And we strive for citizen participation when it comes to our citizen-run elections. And since taking office in 2017, we have continually been innovating our operations. And all these services, we believe, and we hope leads to a higher quality of life for our citizens. Working on some key goals and metrics, we'll start with our Register of Deeds. Obviously, our main role is to maintain property records and safeguard the legal chains of title for real property. In our office, 63% of all land recordings are filed with our office electronically, which we refer to as e-record. That's up 13% over the last 3 years, gradually going from 50 to 63%. We're very proud of that. We hope that more and more title companies will utilize this technology and convenience. Recording fees generally bring in 2018 to the general fund $1.3 million. And of those recording fees, those were made up from $100,910 documents that were recorded in our office. As you can see, we are on the third year of decline. And again, a lot of those are indicators from the economy, the real estate market. We're still a strong market. And then we expect 2019 to be up a couple thousand there at 102,000. So stay tuned on that. In 2 months, we'll be reporting on 2019 performance measurements. So those are the documents that get filed and recorded in our office. We take those very seriously because private property is a benchmark of our citizen-led government and our republic. So moving on to vital records, our mission there is we administer the state statutes as they pertain to the county clerk's office. Some quick facts. Last year in 2018, our vital records operation processed 11,797 birth certificates or births. We processed 6,076 deaths within Kent County. Throughout the state, Kent County is known as a birth and death county by nature of our healthcare system, the medical mile, the numerous healthcare systems that we have here in Kent County. A lot of people come here to have babies, and a lot of people visit our hospitals when they are ailing as well. So we are the fourth largest by population, but also because of the system that we have here in Kent County, we are considered those birth and death counties. We also processed almost 4,500 marriages, and we're really excited that 75% of those marriage licenses were applied for online. Business registrations, when individuals are doing business as a name other than their own, they come and register with the county. We did 2,724 of those business registrations, and in 2018 we processed 5,510 concealed pistol licenses. So those are the records that we processed and indexed. That does not include the about roughly 55,000 documents that were requested in terms of certified records and copies. 30% of those records were requested online. And as you can see on this next slide, you'll see those documents that were requested. We did, surprise, we did our job. We met our performance measurement to respond to those quickly and get that information into the hands of the public. Moving on to our elections division. The mission there is we want to ensure an accurate electoral process. We comply with federal and state statutes, and we work hand in hand with the state government, our local governments, to ensure a fair and transparent and free election system. Here's a brief snapshot of the 2018 elections. In the 2018 general election, we had 459,016 registered voters in Kent County. Our turnout, as you'll see, it was very low in May, 6.6% voter turnout in the May elections. There were a couple proposals, very few proposals on the ballot, and that 6.6% is 6.6% of those who were eligible to vote in that election, not countywide, but those who had an election on their ballot, 6.6% of those citizens turned out and cast their votes. In August, that obviously rose to 30.2% voter turnout, which is actually a high watermark for an August primary election over the last 10 years. And then in November, we had a 61.8% voter turnout, which is extremely high for a gubernatorial year. However, we had talked about the presidential, going back to 2016, we talked about the presidential election being record turnout back then. That was 69%, so a 69% turnout. So in the last presidential election, it was 69%. In the last gubernatorial election, it was 61%. It's very, very high. I will point out that our presidential election in 2016, while it was high, Our last presidential election where there was an open seat was actually in 2008 was 72%. So we fluctuate, but we are seeing greater voter participation by and large. If last year is any indicator, which I think obviously is a great thing. So some of our key goals and metrics with elections, essentially we work to process all voter registration timely and expeditiously. We're really kind of a pass-through when it comes to voter registration, but when we had people register with Kent County, which they are able to do, we had 15,089 voters come to the county to register to vote. We process those and we pass those down to our local jurisdictions as soon as possible to confirm that they are indeed on the voter rolls and prepared to participate. There were obviously a lot of changes in 2018 after the November election, which we'll focus on a little more in 2019's performance measurements, because that's where a lot of the implementations took place. Moving on to our Clerk of the Court division, the goal there is we maintain the 17th Circuit Court records on behalf of the Circuit Court as well as the public. We keep those records secure and complete to support the administration of justice. And last year in 2018, the Circuit Court Clerk's Office filed 391,294 court documents, all with 99.5% accuracy. And as you can see, over the last 3 years, that is a high watermark for our office. There's obviously we have a very active circuit court system, being a large county and also the home to the second largest city. There's just a lot of activity going on in our court system. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I think I did last year as well, the PFAS issue has made its way to circuit court as well, and so we see court filings on that. We expect roughly 379,000 documents to be filed in 2019 this year, so we'll see where that leads us. Additionally, we also receive requests for information. Our court cases, our court files, they are the citizens' files. They are public information, except for that which is not. And when individuals request that information, we work to fulfill those requests as quickly as we can and securely as we can, so that we can protect individuals' personal information, and especially we're very sensitive when it comes to juvenile files as well. We had 85,600 requests for files last year, and we were able to process those within 5 business days. Some we can do in 5 minutes. Some are very robust requests that do take quite a bit of time and effort to review and ensure that we can secure the private information, the non-public information, and we do try our best to work with those individuals making requests. In addition, our circuit court clerk's operation is also essentially the collections agency. We collect the fines, fees, restitution in our office. Last year in 2018, we made up 72,917 financial transactions, which was just in collections, fines, fees, restitution, not court filing fees. We collected $3.9 million in those transactions. Moving to significant accomplishments, 2018 was a busy year. It was a busy election year. It was also the first year that we were fully implementing our new election system. We've been talking about this since I started in 2017, so it's kind of old news to this body. But for our jurisdictions that didn't have elections in November of 2017, this was their first round with that new system. It was our first round implementing a full countywide election with that system. We also, as part of this transition, we secured online election night reporting website. It's an upgrade, Election Magic, which many people are used to. from 2004, 2000s, that was going away, and we felt it was important to have something that's functional, that's real time, how we can operate that, so when we get results, the public will get results. And we've been able to do that. We continue to work to fine-tune that information for candidates, campaigns, the public, and the media, but we're very, very excited about that component of it. Additional significant accomplishments is that we worked with purchasing and IT to begin an RFP to review our record management software system, both for land records and our vital records. And we worked hand in hand with those two departments to select Tyler Technologies. They are one of the national leaders with installations throughout the state. They're a known, tested product, and we're very excited. That transition process to the system began this year. We expect it to be fully implemented the beginning of next year in 2020. But that work took place on the front end, all in 2018, to replace a system that was outdated, obsolete, and simply not functional when it comes to vital records. We took a square peg and shoved it in a round hole. That square peg was meant for land records, and it served us well, but it was 2003 software, and it was time to move on. Some of our key collaborations, I won't belabor the collaboration that it takes to administer and run elections in this county and the partners that we work with to do that. Additionally, the clerk of the court works hand in hand. We collaborate with the Legal Assistance Center. We are very excited, although this is a 2019 thing, that the Legal Assistance Center is now open 5 days a week to assist individuals with legal assistance that we are not authorized to provide. And we collaborate extensively, obviously, with SCAO, the Supreme Court Administrative Office, and our circuit court partners over in the courthouse. Register of Deeds does a lot of collaboration, particularly in 2018 with the Equalization Department. And we also collaborate with our local jurisdictions on the aerial photography project. They do flyovers and take pictures topographically and geographically to enhance our GIS system. Additional collaborations are with the Sheriff's Office. We were able to use, we have a CPL fund separate from our general fund, and that is where, that's where CPL fines or fees go to help us administer that program here at the county. As part of that program, we were able to work with the Sheriff's Office to provide them fingerprinting equipment. At some point, the clerk's office, we are looking to implement fingerprinting of CPL applicants in-house, but that's just something that's not realistic to do at this time. And so in 2018, we worked with them to provide a fingerprinting machine where we send applicants to the Sheriff's Office to get their CPL fingerprints. We also work with the Sheriff's Office to provide free birth certificates to inmates. Certain inmates, upon their release, they will contact our office when that document is needed, and we provide that to kind of give them some of the documents that they need to give them a head start when they get out of jail. Just looking ahead, so essentially looking into right now, the present, since we're almost through 2019, again, moving through our vital records and land records software conversion. 2019 is a year that we are acquiring and implementing campaign finance software system for the ability to have candidates and committees file their campaign finance reports online, as well as for my office to undertake the enforcement of that, which is something that I feel we need to bolster in terms of compliance of campaign finance. Because it is critical, and just so everybody is aware, we have a campaign finance deadline for any committee that is not on the ballot this year, and that deadline is Friday. Reports are due Friday for any committee that is not on the ballot this year. Also looking ahead into 2019, we are working to implement Proposal 3, the measures passed there, and make sure that those work for the citizens. There's a whole lot of changes that took place, and really what that means, the ripple effect of how to implement that, that's what we're working on right now. And I also put in circuit court e-filing. Rob would not let me put ha, 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 ha in the PowerPoint presentation, but it is something we look ahead to, but I feel as though we will be looking way, 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 way ahead at this stage in the game. But it will be wonderful when it comes. At this point, I'll just turn it over to any questions, Mr. Chair, if you have any.
Thank you, Lisa. You play on a very broad field.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Bonk.
Yes, Lisa, I'm glad to hear the upgrades with the electronic software for vital records and so forth. What kind of access will the public have once that's in place concerning after hours, holidays, weekends? Will they be able to access that information, or will that still?
Campaign finance software?
No, yeah, your new software concerning vital records, birth certificates.
Oh, sure.
After
Well,
hours. Will that work?
Yes, we will, similarly, we do have a lot of services that we provide online right now for, requesting birth records and things. Obviously, when it comes to electronic services, those are 24/7. We process them when we come into the office, but there won't be, there's no e-office hours. So, when it's convenient for individuals to file and make those requests, they can do that.
Will they access over the weekend, or can they access on a holiday?
Yes.
If they have a special need and get that information?
Yes. Now, if there's an urgency when it comes to that, we don't process those requests during the weekend, but those requests can be made online during the weekend. And then when we get in the office, we can fulfill that.
Can that be done off-site?
No.
By you?
Oh, by me?
Yeah.
Actually, there is one time I was able to open our office on a weekend for an individual who I really wanted to help this groom out, man. It was their wedding day, and he forgot to pick up his marriage license. And you don't want to start your marriage in fact, you can't start your marriage without a marriage license. So, we do our best. I was able to come to the office, be able to provide that document to them on their wedding day. Happy wife, happy life, and that worked out well. But as a general rule, we don't do, as a general operation, we don't have off-site or remote offices. I think it's something that our technology will allow. But I think first and foremost, we have to get our technology up to snuff. We have to have our infrastructure in place here in the main office before we venture into remote office locations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ponstein?
Thank you, Chair Stack. Lisa, thanks for your work. It is broad. You start the beginning of life and the end of life and everything that happens in
The
between.
good, the bad, and the ugly, Commissioner.
Yeah. So just a quick question. What is the current turnaround if someone applies for a CPL?
The current turnaround is we try and do that within 48 hours.
Okay, and that's applying for it and getting the permit?
No.
You still have steps.
Correct. We do everything on our end almost immediately, but when they come to our office and apply for their CPL, we go through the Michigan State Police process, and that gets inputted into their system, and they do the background checks. So we do on our end immediate action, and I say within 48 hours. But because that's what we have, but we don't wait that long. We're usually doing it immediately. And then there is, I believe it's 30 or 40 days that the state has to come back and either allow us to approve or require us to deny that license. And if they don't, here's the key too. If the state drags its feet for some reason, or if something gets slipped through the cracks, we give applicants a receipt. When they come and they file for their CPL license, they take that receipt. That's when they get their fingerprints. That receipt, they hang on to that, and it essentially serves as their license should the state process take longer than the 30 or 40 days that that they have to do that. So it's essentially, people don't get held up necessarily by anything that happens on the back end. On the front end, we came in and put a major emphasis on not holding CPL up for anything that we have control over. So, and then we also do that we also send out notices that their CPLs are set to expire proactively versus, hey, your CPL is expired. You need, we try and proactively get to our those license holders to inform them that they need to renew their license.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Skaggs?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lisa and staff. Appreciate all the work that you do. Very thorough report, so I think you probably answered most of my questions, but I wrote them down, so I'll ask them and see if I can, if you have any additional information. So the first one was about the campaign finance software that you mentioned. What do you think the timeline for that is, and what can people do in the meantime?
Yeah. It's really important that our elections are transparent, and especially when it comes to the campaign finance aspect of it, both for campaigns and the public and the media to be able to access that which is required to be reported. And prior to undertaking and going through the transition with our new system, it's Campaign Finance US, we used to have PDFs of these reports available online. We had to take that down because we're trying to clean up our entire system. But we do have a note on our website that those are public documents. Contact our office, contact Jared to get a copy of those information. So while we're in transition, we're doing everything we can to be as transparent and convenient to the public as possible. This time, right now, we are internally doing our testing and putting together the system as we know it, and using the system for internal processing in terms of campaign finance notices, failure to file notices, errors and omissions notices. We're finding that works really well. When it comes to the timeline for being able to file electronically, that will be 2020 and first quarter 2020, we're told. And then additionally, we expect all of the public viewing, the public access to be up and running first quarter of 2020 as well. It's our full intention, and I don't even think it's an intention, it's my expectation and my demand. Both, our vendor is fully aware, our elections division is fully aware that this needs to be up and fully functional for the 2020 election season to kick in. And, that first election coming, March, even though that's not a lot of election, that's a presidential, there will still potentially be proposals on the ballot as well, where there may be ballot committees that have to file. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that's up and fully functional prior to everything kicking into gear in 2020.
And when that does go up, the old CFRs that were on there, will they still be available under the old PDF system, or?
They will still be available. I don't know if we're going to have them as PDFs, or if it would be my goal to have them not separate, but brought into the new system as one. So it's not, here was the old stuff, here's the new stuff going forward. I want the new system to kind of envelop the old reports in the system as we will have it.
Okay.
But they will be available.
I have two more, if that's okay, Chair.
That was one, right? Okay.
That was one. The second one is, you mentioned, and if I heard you right, you're going to be back in 2 months for 2019.
I just meant 2020 is 2 months away. So 2019 reports, we'll be reporting on 2019 essentially some point.
Oh, okay. So then about the Prop 3 implementation, which I know is going to be extremely challenging, but very important for our voters. We saw early voting go up in Grand Rapids election. I think 55% came in early.
No reason absentee ballot.
Yes,
voting,
right.
yeah.
So what are we doing to make sure that our municipal clerks and your office are prepared for this kind of massive change in when people are voting?
Yeah, we have absentee counting boards throughout the county. Municipalities can determine for themselves whether or not they do that. I think all but 4 of our local jurisdictions implement what's called an absentee counting board, where it's separate from the polls. If you don't have an absentee counting board, it's generally the small areas where they'll feed the absentee ballots in at the polling locations during lulls or whatever. Absentee counting boards are focused solely on absentee ballots. And there has been, steadily an increase in those participation in absentee voting. We are encouraging all of our counting boards to begin processing their absentee ballots at the start time of 7 o'clock. Sometimes a municipality will wait until 10 or depending on the size of the election. We're encouraging all municipalities to start doing their absentee counting boards at 7 a.m. And what we have through our new election system is a high-speed scanner. And a lot of our municipalities are taking advantage of that. And we are learning how to most efficiently batch those absentee ballots so that they can go through the machine, the scanner, get counted and reported to us as soon as possible. And then a lot of it comes down to training. I think that's a key for polling locations, but as well as absentee counting boards. When you have elections 4 times a year, you don't forget, but you can kind of get rusty, and making sure that on our end, the county is responsible for training our election workers. And so we are making sure to have a very robust training operation, manuals and all that sort of thing. There is a push that is out there in the legislature to allow absentee counting boards to begin prior to Election Day. I'm not on board with that at this point. I think we have to exhaust all of our legal current options, which means starting at 7 a.m. and not waiting. I think there's a lot of discussion as to how we would go about beginning counting processing absentee ballots. What does that mean? Does that mean you start scanning and running them through the machine? Does it just mean you start opening the envelopes to get the ballots out? It is a tedious process, but it also requires complete security. And before we go down that road, I need to have full assurances and confidence that whatever process that may begin early ensures that those ballots are protected, that those ballots are secure. Because right now in our counting boards, this is probably why some of them don't start at 7. Once you start, you cannot be done until after 8 o'clock, and you'll go till after 8 o'clock. But it's essentially a sequester type situation to ensure those ballots are secure and the process has the highest integrity. If you have people coming in and out during different shifts, that's my concern. I think that's a discussion that has to play out with that potential initiative, and I don't think they've gotten there yet to assure that security. Time will tell, and I'm open to suggestions. But right now, we want everybody to vote who is eligible to vote and wants to make their voices heard. Sometimes that means, though, that a high turnout race, it's going to take time to tabulate those. Accuracy, integrity, and security are paramount to instantaneous results.
So in the meantime, as the timing gets sorted out, I guess my question would be, are you making sure that these municipal clerks who may not, have seen those Grand Rapids numbers, or I think the East Lansing numbers, or some over in Oakland County, are they aware that this kind of tsunami is coming, and do they need to increase staff, buy more machines?
They're very aware that this is coming, and admittedly, that would be what you just said, increasing staff, increasing machines. That would be, in my opinion, a preferable alternative to beginning counting or processing absentee ballots prior to Election Day. With that, I think that there needs to be an effort for state grants to purchase that additional equipment. We need to think outside the box in terms of bringing in qualified people that we can train to work those elections. Our elections are citizen run. We require citizen participation. And so we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place to be able to launch that. But I really do think that is the best alternative we can come up with to ensure the security and help make sure that our results aren't delayed or drawn out. But it's just a matter of making sure that we can mobilize that in terms of funding resources, workforce resources, and I think that's the next conversation.
Great, thank you, Lisa. I'll pass on 3 since we
Thank
got
you.
extensive.
It might not be your questions, it might be my answers.
Maybe your colleague has number 3 in mind. Commissioner Talon.
Thank you, Chair. I've whittled mine down to 2 two-part questions instead of 4.
I'll whittle
You don't
my answer
mind.
down too, Commissioner.
First one regards the concealed pistol licenses. Do you have any sense for how many are actually out there right now in effect? You know, your numbers are 5,500 this in 2018. Well, I'm not sure what the expiry period is for those, but
They're 5 years.
5 years.
And, I actually don't have that information off the top of my head. I can get you information as to kind of what the trends are. I do recall maybe last year, at one point I was reviewing what our trends were. And interestingly, in 2016, there was a peak of applicants and in the county. I don't know if that's tied to potential, politics. I don't know if that's tied to, election season fever, that kind of thing. But we did have a peak in 2016 from other years, and I haven't gone back to see what 2017, 2018 brought, where we're at 2019. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, just, a quick math would suggest that, could be in the vicinity of 25 to 30,000 permits out there. So I was just curious
Yes.
what that looks like, how many expire. And
Yeah,
so on.
I believe last year we did have roughly 25 to 26,000
Okay, thanks.
holders.
Second question is, I was struck early in your presentation when you said your department brings in $8.4 million to the general fund, and very impressively doesn't spend near that, which is pretty interesting. Probably some intent there for us to note that. But when I look at the report, it lists about $5.3 million of that, and I'm curious where the rest of those come in. You mentioned the 1.3 of recording fees, and then the
Yep.
3.9 from the clerk of the court.
Yep.
The others, is there a significant area that the rest comes from, or is it
Well,
pretty scattered?
yes, actually, we have a significant amount that we collected in 2018, $4.2 million from just transfer taxes, real estate transfer tax. And then that's the bulk of it. So I think if that helps you
Yeah,
with the math.
That's great, thanks. And then related to that, the amount that you collect for the clerk of the court, what does that look like? And I'm interested in this because of my work on the governor's jails task force. How you do that? What percentage are you able to collect compared to any kind of general
Yes.
ideas about that?
So our filing fees are were in 2018, $190,000. And then I believe our miscellaneous, I can get to that. So just the filing fees that I didn't mention in the presentation were almost $200,000. We actually, I'm going to bring Amy up. Collections we feel like we can do more, particularly not just with collections, but when it comes to paying out restitution to victims who are entitled restitution funds. Sometimes we can't locate them, and so we are doing everything we can to be able to find those individuals and get those funds to them. When it comes to our collections, do you have maybe a percentage, or I mean?
We have a breakdown that we could probably supply to the board that shows our collections over the years, total transactions, collections for restitution, crime victims' rights, miscellaneous collections like filing fees and copy fees and name searches that we take in over accesstag.com. So we can provide a more detailed explanation of what we get, where it comes from, what people are ordered to be paying through the court, and how much of that we collect each year. And surprisingly, it's a lot given the limited ways we can collect actually right now.
That last piece you mentioned would be the one I'm particularly interested in.
There's a lot left on the table, I guess.
The restitution part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the collection of
collection
the
of the
fees and the
fees and
fines and the penalties and so on.
Sure. And just so the board is aware, we are the clearinghouse for those payments. We are not the enforcement aspect of that process. That's handled by the actual court. They do enforce payment, and we then take that money in and process it accordingly.
That's
So we
helpful
can
too.
get that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is on our recording of real estate. I imagine that the e-recording is less costly for us to process than paper recording? Do we charge fees accordingly, cheaper to e-record versus paper record?
No, our recording fees are essentially set in statute. So what we charge is determined by what the law is. I think it's $30 for our recording fee. $5 of that goes into a Register of Deeds automation fund to help us maintain technology and kind of bolster technology with recording our land records. But it's not completely automated when it comes to e-filing, simply because when a record comes in, a document comes in to be recorded electronically, on the back end, we have recording standards set forth by law, by which you have to meet to be able to make it a recordable document. And so we do have, our staff has to go through all those and index that information as well. It just is kind of more seamless, I think.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Just one question, Lisa. You have answered questions about the counting of absentee ballots. Am I correct that an individual who votes by absentee may rescind that ballot up to a certain time, and when can they rescind that?
That's correct. That's correct. And I think it's really important that the public knows that. That is the difference between early voting and absentee voting. Early voting states they go and they cast their absentee ballot, and that ballot is tabulated. Absentee voting is essentially casting your ballot prior to Election Day, but that ballot is not opened, processed, or tabulated until Election Day. It is a big distinction. By law, we mail out absentee ballots beginning 45 days prior to an election. If you're old school, way old school, you'll remember there was always, in campaigns, an October surprise. Some people would cast ballots prior to, anything. There's a lot that can happen in campaign world or election season after individuals cast their absentee ballot. And it's a decision they have to make on their own. But here in Michigan, because we don't do early voting, you have the ability to spoil your absentee ballot and cast a new one up until Monday at 4 o'clock. Is it Monday? Monday.
So just before election
the day
day.
Before the election. Okay. And so as the conversations go, potentially go forward on beginning processing absentee ballots, whatever happens, I don't believe there should be any option for those absentee ballots to begin processing prior to the deadline for individuals to be able to spoil their ballot.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation this morning.
Thank you, committee. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move to item number 5, which is issue involving Department of Health and Human Services Board appointment.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to reappoint Jerry Coyman to the Department of Health and Human Services Board for a 3-year term of November 1, 2019 through October 31, 2022. The DHS board member term expires on October 31st. Interest in serving on the DHS board was solicited in August, September as a part of the annual solicitation of serving on various county boards, commissions, and committees. And appointments committees consisting of Commissioners Stan Steck, Matt Coleman, and Phil Skaggs reviewed the applications, interviewed potential candidates, and recommended the reappointment of Jerry Coyman to the DHHS board.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any conversation, questions? Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Hennessy, sorry.
Thank you. I'm just curious if there were other applicants. Jerry has been there for a number of years, and it's a very small three-person board, and he's done a fine job. So I'm just curious as to how many applicants we might have had for the position. And
I believe we had 5 applicants. We interviewed 3, including Jerry Quayman, and deliberated that issue as well as other qualifications issues, and concluded that this was, for this board at this time, this is the most appropriate appointment.
for the continuity's sake, or?
For continuity's sake.
Okay.
Not
That is
just,
what I've
I
heard
mean,
on the
competency,
background. For
capability, and continuity.
Right, okay,
I
thank you.
think if my members have anything else?
Yeah, I would just add to that, that we have a new gubernatorial appointee, Betty Zylstra, and so we felt that it made sense to have that continuity, because since there are so few people, to have one new person, we didn't want to make it so that 2/3 of the board would be people who had not served for more than a year.
Any other comments, questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. All right, next item, number 6, deals with the issue of a new state legislative policy.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve a new issue to be added to the 2019 legislative priorities, a bipartisan legislative package of bills, House Bills 4351, 4360, and Senate Bills 207-215 was recently introduced into the Michigan legislature, which would restructure the state's bail system to enhance public safety and create an equitable system for pretrial release. Bail determination is one of the most difficult decisions in a criminal case, and one that requires an individual assessment of the circumstances surrounding each defendant to ensure appropriate pretrial release decisions. To that end, the preservation of judicial discretion in establishing bail conditions is a critical component of this legislative package to ensure defendants who are a threat to public safety are detained and others are quickly released. While this legislative package largely codifies Kent County's existing felony charge procedures, it will create a uniform system that provides a greater judicial discretion in considering key risk factors and aligning bail decisions to those factors. This will then lead to a statewide bail system that improves public safety and one that is more equitable, predictable, and efficient.
So moved.
It's moved and supported. Any comments?
I got a question.
Yes, Commissioner Baum.
Thank you, Chair. On this issue and other issues of our legislative priorities, are we expanding the umbrella from where we used to be? I mean, I've been around here a long time, and a lot of issues like this and other issues like the helmet law, we used to sign petitions in the back office and in support of that issue if we were in support or whatever the situation may be. And I see issues like this that we're not really directly involved. I know there would be the helmet law or some of these other things, but that's the work of Lansing and not really our work. Can I just ask that question?
Yeah, fair question, and it does deserve a fair amount of consideration. I will say with respect to this issue, it is looked at from the perspective of, if you go back to Standing Rule 5.1, which is the rule that delineates the obligation of this committee to do a couple of things. One is to, quote, develop written legislative priorities, and 2, to review proposed legislation, defines it as being that which is material to the county. And so it has been the practice, as far as I know, and continues to be the practice, that it is only those issues which we deem to be truly material to our services that we would consider. Now, they'll be variable, they'll differ. What may be different in this case is I'm not sure that we've historically adopted or explored legislative priorities over the course of the year. That is, after we've adopted the first set of priorities, which we did in March. I'm not sure exactly when we got through that.
March, yeah.
April or March. But it does allow for the continuation of looking at those issues as they evolve over the course of the year. But I don't believe, it's certainly not the intention of those who discuss this to expand to become sort of an open public debate on open issues that are of general significance or significant considerations outside of the immediate concern for our public services. So, and this is a policy that was developed over a period of months. This was reviewed and vetted, not just with leadership here, but was also carefully vetted with those other departments in the county that are affected, including the judiciary, including the sheriff's department. And this policy is a statement based upon their careful review and approval.
I could think of other areas in that gray area, veterans issues, trash that was mentioned earlier, a lot of things that we could, in Washington or in Lansing, and I just wondered how big the umbrella is going to get, that's all.
Well, I think it's a very good question, and I think we need to go back and take a look at do we need to define some parameters more carefully?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. I think Commissioner Skaggs was first.
Sure, okay. Thank you, Chair Stack, and I want to thank you for your work on this and echo your previous statements about how, thoroughly this was vetted through stakeholders, and, I think it's a prudent addition to the legislative priorities. Also want to thank staff, especially Lori, for taking a really good, let's say for writing, a very good set of policy priorities for us to look at on bail reform. And then also thank, as Chair Steck mentioned, the judges, the sheriff, the prosecutor, for their work on this issue and their support of these bipartisan package. Of course, this is something that in my day job I work on very closely. Representative LeGrand is one of the lead sponsors. Also, Representative Tommy Brand is as well. So we have Kent County well represented here amongst the 8 sponsors, split evenly between the two parties. As is mentioned in the statement, I think that this is an issue where we're really trying to balance public safety with constitutional rights, and ought to be very careful and diligent about that. Obviously, the problem here is that 40 to 50% of the people in jail at any time are there pre-trial, which means, in our time-tested system, they are presumed innocent, and that even if, and the new data coming out from from Pew, research seems to indicate that most of those people are staying in for a relatively short period of time. But even a relatively short period of time can have a profound impact on someone's life if they are missing jobs, unable to pay bills, unable to pay rent, having problems with who's taking care of their children and whether those are going to go into the system. That it's really important for both an anti-poverty program where we can still stay safe, to have it so the judges in this situation have the discretion that we talk about here, but also have the data to go along with it. So that the key here is really that they are defaulting to a PR bond whenever possible, and making sure that they're staying away from a bond schedule. That is one where, regardless of the ability to pay, regardless of the sort of skin in the game capable for an individual to have, that there are a handful of judges making the decision based on the crime and possible fee to come out of conviction, and not on the individual cases. So now they will have greater information on the financial background, and I think especially given the new system of indigent defense, there will also be increased accountability, and that is really what this is doing by taking those SCAO rules and putting them into statute. So I think that this is a piece of the puzzle of of criminal justice reform. And again, want to thank our independently elected officers here, especially Prosecutor Becker and Sheriff LaHoy DeYoung for their support for this. And I hope that we'll be looking forward to seeing this move in the House and Senate shortly. Thanks.
All right. Commissioner Hennessy, did you have anything?
Well, Commissioner Skaggs did a lot to answer my questions, which is, we see these wording of support, which I do support the bail reform, but how it actually is going to work and how it will help. And Commissioner Skaggs went a long ways towards explaining how it will, help those people who are indigent and putting more personal recognizance bonds, so we're not holding people in jail before pretrial conferences as long, or maybe after the whatever, holding people just because they don't have the money.
Good. Commissioner Tillman.
Thank you, Chair. I want to express appreciation as well for all the work on this from the many folks that Commissioner Skaggs mentioned were involved. And just note, kind of anecdotally, a couple of positive things. I was privileged to be able to meet with a group of circuit and district court judges a week or so ago. And two things kind of jumped out at me from those meetings. One was that we're pretty fortunate in Kent County to have probably one of the best pre-trial departments in the state. It's been around for a long time and does give judges very good information here in Kent County in making those bail decisions. The other is they expressed appreciation already for how helpful the new indigent defense opportunities are in making those decisions, that it's really helpful to have that defense attorney there early on in the process in order to help them. So a couple of positive things that are happening, and I think what I've heard in my work with the Jails Task Force is that Kent County is kind of a model around the state for the work in the judicial process. So thank you.
All right. Anything else? If not, I just would add one more thing, maybe in part response to Commissioner Bonk's question. This legislative priority statement does, in fact, in my judgment, does include areas that involve the duties of other elected officials in this county, as Commissioner Skaggs pointed out, and that's why it's so critical when we do that as a Board of Commissioners to make sure that we are aligned with where our other elected officials are going and what their concerns and issues are, such as the judiciary, such as the prosecutor, such as the sheriff. So I think it was very critical here that that process was engaged in, that it was fully vetted, and that since it is supported, we can move forward. If it wasn't supported, it's not likely this would be before us right now. All right, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, it passes. We'll move to item number 7, equalization, approve Allegan County Equalization Agreement Amendment.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve Amendment Number 2 to the Kent County and Allegan County Agreement for Equalization Services to add 1.0 FTE position, Assistant Equalization Director, Allegan County, and to appropriate $53,000 to the 2019 equalization budget. Currently, the county provides oversight of Allegan County's equalization function, which has resulted in standardized equalization practices in each county. The partnership with Allegan County also supports efforts within the state to move toward more common equalization practices. Allegan and Kent counties wish to amend this current agreement through September 30th, 2022. As a part of this agreement, Kent County will add a position, Assistant Equalization Director, Allegan County, to support its oversight of Allegan County's equalization function, and Allegan County will provide the county with $96,500 annually to support the necessary staffing. Because this agreement is proposed to start during the current budget year, prorated cost for 2019 will be $53,000 based on existing work. If funding is eliminated or decreased, the position will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations. Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved the agreement as to form.
So moved.
It is moved, it is supported. Any questions? Commissioner Coleman moved, Commissioner Hennessy supported. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. All right, moving on to item number 8, dealing with Human Resources, the 2020 Management Pay Plan Compensation Program.
Yes, this is a request to the board to approve MPP pay range, wage, and benefit changes effective January 2020. Approximately 269 county clerical, professional, and management positions are covered under the Management Pay Plan pay structure. As authorized by the Board of Commissioners, the Management Pay Plan administrative process provides for periodic review and adjustment of the pay structure for MPP positions. Human Resources recommends that the MPP pay structure increase by 2.5% to maintain alignment with the market. MPP employees who meet performance expectations will receive a 2.5% wage increase plus any applicable step increases. An additional $388,000 will be allocated as a one-time adjustment to address employee advancement through the pay steps based on years in position. The wage increases are effective with the applicable pay period that contains January 1, 2020. Basic life insurance and accidental life and dismemberment coverage will be changed to a flat amount of $50,000 each. No MPP employees' coverage will be reduced.
Is there a motion? It is moved, is it supported? And supported. Discussion. Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair Steck. Wayman, this is our non-unionized staff?
Correct.
Okay. And this is in line, the 2.5
Yes.
is in line with what the rest of our employees
Yes, it is.
received. Thanks.
Yes, we went through, as you might remember, several negotiations with our unions, and it's right in line with what we've agreed upon with our union agreements as well.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Baum.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Wayman, we had that cold compression issue. Are we moving away from that now?
Yes, we are, and this helps to do that even further. We were stuck in the recession for a number of years. Last year, we did not move this forward because we didn't feel that we were able, and now we're moving it forward this year to catch a few more people up into the overall plan that the committee decided that we should do a few years back.
Okay, good. Good to hear that.
All right. The sun just came out, so it must mean something. All right.
It's over.
Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Next item is miscellaneous. Does any commissioner have a miscellaneous item to raise? All right. If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.